Okay, kaya going up.
Okay. Okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. This evening we'll be presenting on being in communities. The group members are Rian Mohammed, Celine Smart, and Tasha Taylor. So the topics we will be discussing today are the importance of communities, elements of community, communities of practice, the development of communities. So going on to the importance of communities now.
Hi everyone. So I'll be talking a bit on the importance of communities. So I know some of you all may be tired, but we're going to try to keep this as short as possible, right? Um, Next slide. In reality, ideal communities do not exist, and we all live, work, and learn within imperfect communities. Just for starters, do you all agree with this statement?
Yes.
Right, good. Thanks for the response, Nicholas. Once individuals within these imperfect communities are striving to be better, it becomes a supportive environment for them to grow individually and as a group. So basically, what they're saying is once someone is trying to better themselves, they will help the community after, right? Understanding self and others is key to creating and nurturing the context in which groups or organizations function. This allows persons to focus their attention on the responsibilities of processes and spirit of working together. Next slide. Relation leadership involves a focus on five primary components. Ethics upholds values and standards of morality. Purpose, having a common set of values and vision to move an initiative forward. Empowerment, sharing power with others to embrace what they have to offer. Inclusivity, welcoming and opening to diverse points of views and diverse identities. Process orientation, the focus on the group, and how the group works together. Slide. So here basically is just an image showing the components of relational leadership. So as you can see, we have the inclusive, we have the empowering, we have the ethical, and we have the purposeful. Right? Next slide. To understand why communities is meaningful and beneficial to our well-being, we can look at these ways in which belonging to one can help us. Number one, support and safety. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, it became the norm to live with uncertainty. This made it extremely important to have a strong support network as it helped us fight the feeling of hopelessness and allowed us to feel safe. Connecting and belonging. Togetherness is central to our experience as humans. That feeling we are part of something bigger can help give meaning to our lives. Being accepted into a group gives us a stronger sense of self and can help us cope with negative experiences, and feelings. Influence. Experiencing the positive influence of like-minded people is another reason behind the importance of community. Communities can influence us and motivate us to invest in our well-being and to bring positive changes to our life. Next slide. Number four, sharing. Sharing activities, ideas, and feelings reinforce not only our sense of self, but also adds worth and value to the community. This is beneficial on mental health, and as the saying goes, sharing is caring. Learning. Within communities, there may be people with different views, experiences, or beliefs, and learning from them can help us reach insights that we may not have reached on our own. Number six, acceptance. Developing community bonds with others who have different views may be challenging, but it's also an opportunity to practice acceptance. Number 7, more connections. The importance of community goes beyond the personal sphere and extends to professional development. By being in a community, it allows you to meet new people and expand your ideas and professional life. Next slide. So now I'll be handing you over, and you'll hear a bit from me again later down.
So now, sorry, now we'll be speaking about the different elements of communities. So there are 8 elements of communities that help make them functional. They are wholeness incorporating diversity, a shared culture, good internal communication, caring, trust and teamwork, group maintenance and governance, participation and shared leadership tasks, development of new members and links with the outside world. So for incorporating diversity, this involves cultural or ethnic diversity, diversity of ideas, skills, experiences, stuff like that. And it helps to build resilience and embraces change. So it builds resilience because you're learning from and accepting differences of different people. The shared culture, the shared culture may be something that reflects the spirit of the community, and the spirit of the community makes many other relational processes possible. So it gives the community something to relate to and bond over. Traditional views of community define it as groupings of people who have much in common and may even resemble each other in ideology, race, or class. While this is a valid definition, diversity is necessary to build and develop communities. Internal communication. Between communities with, internal communication. It can happen between communities with close proximity or with communities with similar perspective. So with close proximity, that would be like neighbors, families that live close together, stuff like that. Or communities with similar perspective. It might be a spiritual community or career-wise, like the medical field and other careers. For communities that aren't within close proximity, the internet and social media allow them to stay connected without the need for similar geography. Caring, trust, and teamwork. Teamwork requires community members to participate in order to make decisions. Each member should care about the opinions and needs of the other members. Within the community, members need to be open with one another. This requires listening, trust, and the ability to give up control even if you have conflicting ideas. Group maintenance and governance. It includes all members, group maintenance and governance, including all members who work together to achieve a shared goal. And participation and shared leadership. It means that no one person is in charge and multiple members come together to build on each other's ideas. These two are so kind of related to the element before, caring, trust, and teamwork, where everyone needs to work together to achieve a similar goal. Development of new members. Young people and new members need to be taught the values and norms of the community. This helps keep the community and its traditions alive because they will be able to pass on the norms and values through generations. Links with outside words, links with the outside world, sorry. It involves connecting with other communities and being aware of other groups. This could also be related to the point with good internal communication, with communities that aren't geographically similar, so they communicate online, on the internet, or social media. People tend to seek out certain communities when they move to a new town because they know they will be welcomed as a new member. So we have a little activity here. Think about a particular community of which you are or have been a member. Which of the 8 elements of community were especially visible in this community and which were missing and why? Does anybody want to volunteer a community? Okay, we could use, since we're all students in Custard, we could use that community. So I would like everyone to just say yes or no on whether they think that that element is present within this community that we all are part of. So the first one is diversity. Do you think our community is diverse?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. Do you
Yes.
think? Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a shared culture?
Yes.
Yes.
To an extent.
To that extent.
To an extent. You want to expand on that, or?
Right, man.
Okay. Good internal communication. Is there good communication within this community?
No.
No? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, number 4, caring, trust, and teamwork.
Depends on where you're at.
Okay. Group maintenance and governance. Maybe. Okay, a bit unsure about that one. That's okay. Participation and shared leadership tasks.
Yes.
Yes, I think so too. Development of new members.
Yes.
And links with the outside world.
Unsure.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take the yes. So that's it for elements of community. Thank you for listening. We'll now move on to communities of practice. Okay, so communities of practice are groups of people who contribute to and interact with each other to achieve a common goal. Everyone belongs to multiple communities of practice, but have different levels of commitment to each, because no one has enough time or energy to be highly involved in every community that they identify with. For example, you may be highly involved in the class council, an ethnic or religious group, or the service organization you co-lead. However, because of limited time, disinterest, or shifting priorities, you may become more affiliated with only one of those communities and not highly active in the others. An individual has to decide to be part of the larger community, and the community has to involve and welcome them. The social networks we form in these communities of practice are critical to accomplishing shared goals as well as our personal identification and satisfaction. And learning to feel responsible for others in our community of practice is critical for human connection. So now this is a short video with a recap on what we discussed on communities of practice.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie from the Knowledge Translation team, and I'm going to very briefly talk to you about communities of practice. So the first question you might have is, what is a community of practice? So this is a definition from someone named Etienne Wenger, and he is considered to be the father of communities of practice. So he informs all of the information that I'm sharing with you today. So he defines communities of practice as groups of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do, and they learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. And so there's some important distinctions of a community of practice that make it unique compared to other methods of gathering people together. The first is the domain. So a community of practice is not merely a club of friends or a network of connections between people. It has an identity that's defined by a shared domain of interest. And membership implies a commitment to that domain and therefore a that distinguishes members from other people. So it's different than, say, a network you may belong to where you don't know the other members. The second piece that makes it unique is the community. So in pursuing their interest in whatever the domain is that's bringing people together in this community of practice, members engage in joint activities, discussions, they help one another, they share information, they build relationships basically that enable them to learn from one another, and they care about their standing with each other as well. And the last piece that makes a community of practice unique is the fact that it's not merely a community of interest. It's not, for example, people who like certain kinds of movies. It's basically a community where the people who are a part of it are practitioners, as what we call them. They develop a shared repertoire of resources. They share experiences. They share stories. They share tools or even co-create tools, and they discuss ways of addressing reoccurring problems in their practice, and they share that experience together. And this takes sustained time and interaction to do. And lastly, what's the benefit of a community of practice? So here are some very top level benefits, and of course there are more. But the first one is peer-to-peer learning, of bringing people together so that they can learn from one another in a space where they feel comfortable sharing their expertise and knowledge with one another. The second is that new relationships are developed. So you're bringing together people that might not otherwise have had the chance to get together and share their knowledge and experiences with one another. The third is innovative problem solving. So in a good community of practice where of trust and security, people aren't afraid to be innovative and creative in their problem solving, and you can get some really cool ideas out of a group of people who are connecting as a community of practice. And lastly, there's also the opportunity for collaboration or partnership on projects for people who are in that community of practice together. So that's a whistle-stop tour of what a community of practice is. What are the things that make it different than the other ways that we may organize people, and what some of the benefits are. And I hope
the fourth point, which is development of community.
Okay, good day, guys. So, development of community. Next slide, please. What is community development? Community development has many different definitions. Unlike mathematics or physics, where terms are significantly derived and rigorously defined, community development has evolved with many different connotations. Community development has probably been practiced for as long as there have been communities. Many scholars trace the origin of community development as a discipline and known profession to post-World War II reconstruction efforts to improve less developed countries. A major contribution of community development has been the recognition that a city or neighborhood is not just a collection of buildings, but a community of people facing common problems with untapped capacities for self-improvement. Next slide, please. Development of community. History relating to community. Community development as a profession has deep roots tracing its origins to social movements of earlier times throughout the globe. More than a century ago, prior to the Occupy Wall Street movement, Uptown Sinclair in the jungle 1960 described the horrible conditions of the meat packing factories and the poverty and hopelessness prevention in the back of the yard neighborhood in Chicago. Inspired by the work of Sinclair, the other muckrakers, and the labor organizer, John Lewis, Saul Allen Sky, became a community organizer and took it to the streets, convinced that the interests of workers and the poor were not being represented and protected by traditional political process and institution. Allen Sky walked the talk, served many jail terms for nonviolent demonstrations, and shortly before his death published his seminal work, Rules and Radicals, in 1971. And this book was basically about community organizing and extols the importance and justification of using non-conventional means to close the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And I just incorporated a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools, which basically sends a message across that no community can survive being divided into opposing groups. There must be one overarching set of values that everyone agrees to please. Without this, the entire group falls into itself because of the lack of defining members. Next slide, please. Okay, so the 4 stages of developing true authentic community. Stage 1, pseudo community, is the first stage of a group where members get to know each other, trusting them on a surface level and everyone getting along. This is due to the group not experiencing any circumstances at this stage, so it doesn't reveal how members will behave under pressure. And I'm pretty sure everybody has experienced this stage of authentic community during a project, a club, or a community. Stage 2, chaos. This stage of building a community is understanding and viewing others' perspectives on any given task. This can cause a lot of misunderstanding or worse. It is important to find meaning in the idea that even fighting is better than pretending you are not divided. So sometimes avoiding chaos could just make it grow bigger and bigger until, it gets worse and there's no controlling that chaos. Next slide, please. So the third slide is emptiness. The third stage is emptiness. Emptiness, this stage of community building is emptiness. This is due to assumptions, ideas, stereotypes, or motives becoming barriers to truly listening and being understood. If there are less assumptions being made, there would be positive thoughts or ideas that can uplift the group. Sometimes, just not listening or trying to be an understanding member can really mess with the positivity or productivity of a group. Next slide, please. Development of community, the 4th stage, which is true. Authentic community is conflicts still arise, but there are ways to be heard, and the community members usually know they cannot reach consensus or many levels of agreement without dissensus or disagreements to create truly better decisions. Building community is creating a feel or a feel of we out of lots of eyes. Many groups never get past pseudo community and find ways to courteously interact and get their work done. That may be sufficient for their purposes, but, but ongoing groups that are doing difficult work would benefit from recognizing PEC's stages and working toward authentic community. Sometimes sticking to a pseudo community can really be a disadvantage to a group because that could waste a lot of time and it's just less productivity. It's really not something any group would wish to stay in for long. All right. Next slide, please. Question. I have a question for the class. What challenges might arise from staying in a pseudo community state for too long and how can we address them? Has anybody ever experienced being in a pseudo community for too long and wanted to say something but didn't feel like that was the place to? Anybody? Keep in mind that pseudo community basically stands for avoiding conflict. It's the stage of a group. Okay,
I've been
pseudo stand.
I've been in past like friendships like that before, but eventually I break it off. So like,
That's understandable. Okay. Well, I have been in a stage of pseudo community with track and field during Form 5 where, I was putting in that effort to show up all the time, but the coach was always running late and, you know, every members started to leave and it just wasn't making sense anymore to show up. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you all experience it. Everybody just shy to speak at this moment. So I have the answer. In a pseudo community state for any extended period can lead to failure to address issues, could lead to stagnation, wasted potential. To address these challenges and transitions toward a more genuine community, address conflicts constructively, actively resolve conflicts when they arise, ensuring that issues are not left unattended, setting common goals, define shared objectives that can unite the group and provide a sense of purpose. Okay, so now we have reached the summary, right? Which is basically summarizes everything that we spoke about. So a community can be defined as a group of people with diverse characteristics who are linked by social ties or share common perspectives and engage in joint actions in geographical locations or settings. Communities are important because they allow you to respond to change, they boost empathy, it brings fun into your life, it gives you a sense of belonging, it helps your mental health, it can lead to a new viewpoint, make you a better communicator, offer support, provide professional development, push you to take action. The 8 elements of communities are wholeness, incorporating diversity, a shared culture, good internal communication, caring, trust, and teamwork, group maintenance and governance, participation, shared leadership tasks, development of new members, links with the outside world. Rational leadership can be enhanced by framing any organization or group as a community of people who work together or share purposes. When a group is considered to be community, it bonds participants to a shared paradigm of expectations and responsibilities. Participants who want to be highly engaged in the work of any community need to assess the ways in which they can become effective community members. Individual participants should practice these 7 community building principles. Be committed, be mindful of others, be unconditionally accepting, be concerned for both yourself and others, be understanding of another person's perspective other than yours, be ethical, and be peaceful. Communities require rational leadership to thrive and be successful. Relational leaders share a clear purpose which they are able to communicate with members of a group. Relational leadership practices value community as the context in which meaningful change can occur. It must be inclusive, empowering, ethical, purposeful, and process-oriented. A relational leader values the process, encouraging reflection and collaboration, and they also value calculated risk-taking, knowing it is for the growth and benefit of the group. So thank you so much for your time today, everyone. And if you all have any questions concerning development of a community or overall being in communities, please feel free to ask us questions.